This next-gen interview is brought to you by Lumosity. It is my great pleasure to chat with Phil Spencer, head of Microsoft Studios. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thanks for being here. It's great.
And really, thank you for your time, because I can imagine you're a little busy.
It is a busy time. It is definitely a busy time. Playing a lot of games, important little changes we want to make as we find all these things. It's also a very fun time. You start to see the end of years of work.
Now, just for the sake of the audience, because yes, there's a lot of stuff out there. So you guys are still finishing the games, but in terms of, say, the hardware or the drivers that are in the hardware, are you pretty much sort of focused on what the final version of the system is?
Yeah, absolutely. So the hardware is on the boats, on the way to the retail stores. So the hardware is completely done. In the games, we're in what we call certification. So you can think about the games as almost done. We're making some last-minute tweaks, but pretty much playing the games front to end, and platform the same way. We're right there, right at the final finish line, and feeling really good about where the quality of things are coming in.
Now, of the three, and forgive me, I'm going to call them the major launch titles. Now,
Okay.
the Dead Rising 3, Rise, and Forza.
Yeah.
Sort of, what was the thinking that they would be the leads? I mean, it's got to be tough when you choose what's going to be on a launch platform, because you're going to have your smallest install base.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you need to put your best foot forward as well.
Very smart question. For me, and I've been through both of our previous launches, we have racing game at launch is always important. We had PGR at the original Xbox. PGR was there again at 360. Love PGR. Forza, the team turned 10, stood up and said we want to do a launch game, a racing game. First time they've done a launch game. And racing games are kind of an evergreen category. Feel really good about that. Crytek's graphic capability, and if you go down and see the build of Rise, just stunning. You want a game that's really going to be a graphic and gameplay showcase for the platform. And really for the rest of the games, Dead Rising was great to get Capcom support, another franchise that has a long history on Xbox. But you're right, from a business standpoint, being there at launch when your install base is 0 and then 1 and grows, it can be a difficult challenge, and but the studios are doing great jobs getting the games ready. And really it's 2 years, 3 years of content. We've got a long roadmap of great exclusives coming.
So looking at all of the games, and Killer Instinct, Crimson Dragon, you even have actually a really fun demo for Kinect Sports Rivals.
Yeah.
So what do you see as sort of the audience that's going to be gravitating towards the Xbox One at launch? I mean, do you think there's kind of a core audience that's going to be there first, and it's going to start to grow out to maybe older and younger consumers?
Yeah, I think there's a purchaser of the console day one that brings the console into the home. But usually homes involve more than one person living in the home, and we think about the content that can be there for everybody. So you might go from a game like Peggle all the way up through a game like Killer Instinct. You got Kinect Sports Rivals. We want to make sure that when the box hits the home, and maybe it comes in because of a great game like Call of Duty or Rise, that everybody there finds content day one that they will find useful, whether it's Xbox Fitness, whether it's the TV functionality. We're really thinking about this platform as a core gaming box that can be attractive to everyone in the home.
Now, obviously, that did cause you guys some trouble in the months past, where there was a lot of attention focused on the media capabilities, and a lot of gamers who would probably be the initial purchaser felt that somehow Microsoft wasn't serving them. What have you done in the ensuing months? I mean, obviously, we're here at an event with a lot of games.
Yeah.
To try to just get back on track with that messaging that this is a gaming console first and foremost.
I said something after E3 where it's not a sprint. This is a long run that we're on, and I knew the game lineup that we had. And it's not always true that every game that you hope hits launch, but we're sitting here with a lot of great games that will be there at launch. I had confidence that we would land great games at the launch of the console, but obviously this is an industry, as we know, very passionate people give you their opinion, and it's okay for people to question. Right? It's okay for people to ask and make sure that they're investing a lot of money in these consoles, and they want to make sure that the content that they love is going to be there. And for us, it was just keep at it, make sure that we've got a quality bar for the games, and we've got a great lineup of content.
Kinect, that's also been something of an issue, because people attribute the $500 price tag difference to the $400 for the PlayStation 4 as coming with that sensor. Sort of, if you could start to make a case for what you see, if not at launch with the Kinect, how that's really going to be integrated into any gamer's experience on Xbox One.
You know, what I'm seeing today is a majority of the games doing something as simple as using voice input. And you can say, you know, is that enabled by Kinect? Well, for us, it obviously is. It's something that's really important. And putting a common tool in the hands of all the developers. So I don't have to think about, is a third of the install base, do they have Kinect and the rest of them don't? How do I deal with that? But make that a common base part of the platform. Has been really instrumental in getting the devs to support Kinect in many ways. Gesture shows up in a ton of the games, voice shows up in a ton of the games, and obviously you go to the extreme where games are exclusive to Kinect, like Kinect Sports Rivals, like Xbox Fitness, like Just Dance. You get some games that are really about playing just with the Kinect sensor, but you're finding a lot of games in that space, which I call the hybrid space, of games that use Kinect and controller. And I think, you know, it's just shown that when you put the tools in the hands of the creators, they'll come up with some really interesting games and uses of the technology.
So what's an example? Because we have seen voice integration and some sort of, you know, I would say minor gesturing controls in games that are fundamentally a controller-based game. But what kind of can you put out there as an example of where you can see the integration of Kinect as something that really does sort of enhance and doesn't just offer an alternate way to play a game?
Well, I think Kinect Sports Rivals maybe is a good example, and there was some questions about controller support for Kinect Sports Rivals, but it'd be like playing Dance Central without, with a controller. It doesn't really make any sense. The experiences that we built,
I would do much better at Dance Central if I could play with a controller, so I'll throw that out there.
But like, D4, I think is a great game to look at when you think about Kinect. The game was thought about from the beginning of how gesture could actually work to control the experience. There was never really a thought about how we'd build a controller-based game. The spirit of the game from day one was about using gesture and really get you emotionally tied into the gameplay experience, and I think they've done a great job with that.
Like we both said that, this is a time where there seems to be heightened anxiety, not legitimately on the part of the people making the consoles and the games, but for those who are about to buy them. And there's a lot of stuff out there about what the actual resolution and the output of the games are. If you could sort of just go on the record and kind of set it straight.
Sure. We as a first party, we're building games, and we have games that are at 1080p, we've got games at 900p. What we really focus on are, for the experience we're building, what's the right graphic capability, right frame rate capability for the game that we're trying to build, and put the control in the hands of the creator. You could have done something which I would have said would have been draconian and wrong, to go out and dictate that everybody must hit a certain frame rate, everybody must hit a certain resolution. I'll take Rise as an example. We looked at Rise at different resolutions with different graphic techniques, and we made the decision along with Crytek that 900p 30 frames a second, with the techniques that we could employ around lighting, around anti-aliasing and the animation, everything that we wanted to run, that was the right answer. I think it's the best looking launch game out there. It's an amazing looking title right now. And I think if people want to get hung up on the numbers, they can do that, but really what they should be looking at is they should be looking at what's on screen, put the controller in their hands, and play the game. If they really care about that, you can go play Forza, 1080p, 60 frames a second, beautiful game. But games should be defined by more than what their frame rate and resolution is. I think this is an industry about fun, and people should put the controller in their hand or gesture and play the games and decide what they like. I think that's the soul of what this industry is about.
But you do understand, I think for an audience, when you see numbers and you see new system, there's just that natural tendency to want to see the highest number. Is this any concern if this story keeps on going? It almost sounds like not so much Microsoft, but I think the entire industry has put such an onus on 60 frames a second and 1080p that anything that falls short of that might seem as a lesser product, at least on paper.
So I think there are probably two parts of it. One, people really haven't played the games yet. So people, in absence of being able to go to their local stores, put the controller in their hand and play, they're going to focus on the data that they have available. And frame rate and resolution is clearly one of those things. So I think it's kind of natural that people focus on this. But if we go back many generations, I don't think we would define the best games in any console generation as the highest resolution, highest frame rate. There's something else about a game that's important other than just that. Like I said, we could have run Rise at 1080p. The game would have looked different. It would have looked And we made a decision based on what we wanted to put in the game that 900p was the right resolution for that game, 30 frames a second, the right frame rate for the game, and what we put on screen I think is fantastic. And I think putting the tools in the hands of the creators, letting them make the decision. Clearly the box supports 1080p, 60 frames a second. We have games that can go and demonstrate that here at the show. People can go and look at and play. But you really want to put those decisions in the hands of the creators and let them decide where they want to spend their resources in the hardware.
So there's quite a few Microsoft Game Studios games here. Of course, there's some from your partners in the third party. And I think Dead Rising is also being made over there at Capcom. What is Microsoft's intention going forward? We know of like the studio called Black Tusk. In terms of really investing in some unique IPs that could help define what the Xbox One is. I think a lot of people felt that the 360 in those latter years really just kind of became the system that a lot of third parties gravitated towards. I mean, are you trying to make a new identity for Xbox?
Yeah, something for me when I came to this role, and I love playing core games. I love new stories. For me, at some point, sequels can run out just in terms of my energy for them. So I love creating new things. And I look at over the next 2 or 3 years as a great time for us to continue to invest. So when I came in as the head of studios, one thing I wanted to do was make sure we doubled down our investment in core new IP. And I was proud to show a little glimpse of what Black Tusk was doing, but you can look at the work we're doing with Insomniac, the work we're doing with Remedy, games that aren't here, that will come. We've got other things that we've yet to announce because there are other shows and other places where we're going to want to stand on stage and say, hey, look at this new thing that we've signed and look at how we think this is coming together. So people should know there's a long road in front of us with a lot of new things coming, a lot of new core IP, but also Halo will be coming, things that are tried and true on our console. But the investment in new IP, the investment in core franchises is kind of critical to what I see my role as head of studios.
Well, and for the game industry as a whole, I mean, I think there's a sense of anxiety that we see success from sequels, but there's also a hunger and kind of an anxiety that if we don't get new franchises out there, that we could see things trying to run themselves down. How do you maintain that sense of balance between what's reliable and what has to be innovative?
Yeah, I think it's a good role for a first party, right? We're kind of an unnatural business, as you were talking about. We invest so big early at a console launch. We're going to invest in new IP day one with something like Rise. Like, that's a challenge, but we're going to go put it all over TV and we're going to talk about it and we're going to build the best game possible, but really over the life cycle. And I know people can talk about the tale of the 360 and ask, well, where were the big hits in the last couple of years? I'm making a commitment on Xbox One that we're committed to huge big franchises coming, both new and existing franchises, and even things like you brought up Killer Instinct, kind of reboots of things that have been beloved for years, bringing them back to this console generation. I think we even have some more of those things coming that'll be exciting, to reboot some franchises I think people will be excited about.
Yeah, Killer Instinct, I have 30% less emails because you finally made the announcement.
Me too.
That game is coming out. Phil, one final question. Right now, I'm assuming you get the opportunity to play a lot of these games. When you go home at night, which one do you like to sit down with? Yes, I'm asking you, which is your favorite child?
I guess I've talked a lot about it, but I have been playing Rise a ton, and that game, we have a long history with that game, and it's our first game with Crytek, and it's been great, the work that the studios, both our teams and Crytek, have been doing together. Shavat and I talk all the time about where the game's coming in. At first it was playing to get my hands on it, to say, okay, how does this feel? Now I'm playing it more because I just enjoy it, going back and playing levels. It's probably, my daughters are playing with me, which is kind of funny, but the story's really strong, and people get kind of brought into that, and you want to, even though I know how the story, beginning, middle, and end, but you kind of want to see it play out on screen. It's one of those games that you want to get to the next level just to see the graphic fidelity of what they put on screen, which is a kind of a nice feeling.
All right, well, Phil, thank you so much. Obviously, November 22nd, big day for you and for us as well.
Yeah,
all right,
thanks. Appreciate it.
Hey, you want to improve your brain power and perhaps live a better life? Then you should check out our sponsor, Lumosity. They make brain training easy with fun and games based on neuroscience. It's like a personal trainer for your brain that lets you build a customized program to enhance memory and attention. Over 40 million users have already experienced Lumosity's breakthrough brain training. So what are you waiting for? You can support Rev3 Games and get instant access by going to lumosity.com/Rev3Games.